Welcome to the Ferrari stand at the Geneva Motor Show 2015. We've managed to let some of the crowd subside around this, the 488 GTB, obviously a replacement for 458. Where to start with it? Well, clearly it's got the 3.9 litre twin turbocharged engine in it. Now, Ferrari are well aware that there are a few issues with turbocharging which nobody particularly likes in comparison to naturally aspirated cars. So the throttle response is something that they've focused on, particularly with this. So in terms of throttle response, they're saying there's a throttle response of 0.8 of a second compared to a naturally aspirated car's 0.7. So I guess it's some sort of context. So they're saying basically it's amazing. They're saying compared to a competitor which is, which will remain unnamed, is about sort of 2 seconds. So they're saying it's phenomenal. In terms of sound, well, they've worked really hard to keep the equal length pipes on the exhaust side, and yeah, we'll just have to wait and see what that sounds like. I drove the C63 Mercedes AMG the other day, and that sounded fantastic, and that's got a twin turbo V8, although that's obviously got the hot V with the turbos inside the V. So we know they can sound good. Still got a flat plane crank, so we're pretty confident that Ferrari can pull out something that sounds good, albeit perhaps not quite as spine-tingling as we're used to with a naturally aspirated engine. The outputs, well, they're pretty phenomenal, to be honest. 661 brake horsepower, 670 PS, and 560 pounds-foot of torque. The torque is interesting because, again, this is something that they've tried to do. We saw it in the California, and they have this limited torque as you move up through the gears. So in first, second, third, and fourth, you'll find that the torque is sort of biased towards the top end of the rev range, so you change up and you feel like you've got more of a naturally aspirated feel to the engine, and then in fifth, sixth and seventh then the torque comes lower down, so the maximum torque of 560 pounds-foot, as I said, and they quoted at 3,000 RPM, but that's also in seventh gear. Hope you're following me here. Performance figures, well, 0 to 62 miles an hour in 3 seconds. I think the amazing one that everyone's been quoting is 0 to 124 miles an hour in, I'm just going to check this, it's 8.3 seconds. I couldn't believe it. So yeah, top speed 205 miles an hour, which again, you know, it's just creeping up all the time. This is the junior supercar, remember. Crazy. Anyway, let's go and have a quick look at some of the aerodynamics because they are pretty incredible as well. So the interior of the 488, it's an evolution. The exterior is an evolution. This is even subtler evolution. What they've done there is they have angled these buttons more towards the driver, and there's greater symmetry, I think, in this here, which also they've changed the screens, but we can't see that without turning it on. Love to. Better not. They'll go all papal on us. And yeah, there is also a screen over on this side which will tell you just how terrified you are as a passenger, which is nice. So around the front we've got this dual section front wing here with the gap and the airflow coming up over here. But the really interesting stuff, before I disappear from view, is around the back. So overall I think the design is actually it's slightly sleeker, slightly less fussy than the 458. One thing that isn't less fussy, it's fussier, is this down here, but there's a very good reason for it. This dual aspect intake, the bottom one feeds the intercooler. The top one is very clever. Note they've moved the door handle down here, which I assume is smoothing aerodynamics as well, I think. The air goes in here and then emerges from the rear of the car by this light. So if you think back to the Ford GT, so that has the big arch and is obviously smoothing the airflow in a much more extreme fashion down the side of the car. This is a sort of a subtler version of that, I suppose. The other thing we've got is airflow that comes down here, and this just looks like a shadow, but it's not. You can actually put your hand all the way up, well, if you had smaller hands than me, your hand all the way down there, so it smooths the airflow through here, keeps it in contact with the car, and yeah, and then obviously you've got the big diffuser at the rear as well. Internally, this is obviously, you can see the dry sumped engine in there, still 90 degrees, and we've got the latest generation of the F1 track and the E-diff. Now what they've done is that the magnetohydrological, try saying that after a few, dampers actually react and work with the diff, so that when you oversteer, they help you along with the others. It sounds amazing. Ferrari do this stuff better than anyone else, I think. And so I can't wait to feel what that feels like, because the side slip control that obviously was brought in on the Speciale was incredible. And yeah, it will be interesting to see how they move the game on again with this. So there we go. That is the Ferrari stand at the Geneva Motor Show.